thousands and thousands of people who will be opening bank accounts and doing KYC and AML and things like that. And that's not necessarily the case. So how will that kind of market infrastructure look in practice?
So we are proposing at the moment what we call a platform model. And the way that this will work is that the underlying ledger that records the transactions and records how much money everyone has got will be operated by the Bank of England. So you will have that safe and secure settlement underpinning it in the same way that we print banknotes at the moment. We will then surface that through actually a new type of entity called a Payment Infrastructure Service Provider, or PISP. Now, payment infrastructure service providers will provide people with wallets that allow them to access their CBDC and probably other features as well. It's a new type of entity. Certainly banks can and probably will opt to be PISPs, payment infrastructure service providers, but also technology companies as well. Because the important thing there is that the PISPs aren't exposed to the deposit taking and the credit risks that an ordinary bank might be. So it actually opens up a broader spectrum of people who might become involved in this ecosystem. I think the other thing as well to understand about it is it allows us to have a diverse range of types of wallets and types of products. And it's a bit of a learning from distributing physical cash as well. Certainly how we do it in the UK, of getting people to do the thing that they are good at. So I think you will, if you were to see an iPhone app that I had developed, I am actually an application developer, it probably wouldn't be very good, because that's not what I get out of bed to do. I get out of bed to do that safe and secure settlement thing. So we will have the central bank doing the thing that we're good at. We're going to expose that through an API layer. And then we want to have a diverse ecosystem that can support different types of use cases, because different people will want to use this product in different ways, we think, and create that sort of rich experience that we're looking for, and also to drive that innovation through.
So yes, how are you planning to engage with the public? And I think, Pure, when we say the public, it's also not just the payments community, the financial services community, it's the people who will be using this every day.
Sure. I mean, it's a journey. It's the first thing to say. So I'll talk a little bit about the journey to publishing the consultation, and then what we've learned since February, and then but first where we go from here. So at the end of this consultation, as with every consultation, we'll kind of read and digest the results of it, and that there will be some sort of summary publication that comes out of that. We're also then going into a 2-year period of doing more development, more design work, and more planning work to then look to actually take a final decision about whether we're rolling this out or not, because that decision still hasn't been taken yet. And that will come in around about 2 years.
So on time, I understand that there are lots of technical difficulties and also legal, to some extent, administrative difficulties that needs to be addressed in order to roll out the CBDC. And so time is absolutely understood, but the push for going faster, I think, still needs to be made. The European Central Bank is finishing now its investigation phase and is about to begin an implementation phase of about 3 years. The Bank of England might not be much faster than that. That means that they're talking about the second half of this decade. That means that, again, for several years, the Chinese CBDC will be the only one among the major jurisdictions out there. What's the risk? Clearly, China is able to make comprehensive offers along the countries of the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, in which they offer to build the infrastructure of all sorts, road, bridges, ports, and whatever not, but also payment system infrastructure.
Special questions I'm going to go through are really, I think, around adoption. And there's some observations of where, retail CBDCs have been introduced in other jurisdictions, and they've not particularly been very popular. So the e-Naira, for example, in Nigeria has not been very successful. This audience member says the e-rupee in pilot mode in India probably didn't get the response the Indian Central Bank was hoping. One reason might be that they were targeting the market where people already had multiple options, or the use cases might not have been compelling enough. Are we looking in the UK at new use cases like offline transactions, or at markets where people don't have access to common digital payments to launch a digital pound? I think that's also linked to another question in public have shown little interest in CBDC, even in China, for example. And then also someone asking, you know, credit cards weren't very popular when they were first introduced. What steps will the Bank of England be taking to sort of ensure that a CBDC is actually practically adopted? And I think there's aspects of that question that can probably be directed to a number of you. Would be great to hear what you have to say, Will, but I think thoughts from Martin and Kuba as well on adoption would be really great, given that your companies are obviously looking at what can be done with a CBDC in the future. But Will, please go first.
Sure. I mean, there's a couple of things in there. First of all, as alluding to something I was talking about at the beginning, CBDCs are addressing different problems in different jurisdictions. So in some places, like, for example, Sand Dollar in the Bahamas, they're trying to tackle a couple of things. Number one, the level of the unbanked adult population, and number two, the difficulties of distributing physical cash over a large sort of island population. You know, those are quite specific problems that we don't have in the UK, and probably similar elsewhere. So there's something to bear in mind about that. And then, as you know, someone was making the point about a credit card, and I think actually faster payments and contactless in the UK are really good examples of technologies that had very slow adoption at first and then had a takeoff. And there's quite a phenomenon in payments that everyone expects adoption to be linear, and over time, and it never is. It's always an overestimate in the short term. So people go, well, this isn't working, no one likes it, and then an underestimate in the long term, because when it takes off, it really takes off. So I would expect that, given that we're launching into the same market effectively, that a British CBDC will follow a similar sort of pattern.